Looks like it. Tack så mycket.
So I am a professor at KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology here in Stockholm, and I spent 5 years on leave heading up my own company that is still a pretty good employer in, can you hear what I'm saying? Here in the Stockholm area and in Sweden. And it's a fantastic thing actually that you can tell the president of KTH, you know, I'm quitting for a while, can I come back if I fail? And he says yes, that's very nice of him. And I will get to this from a little bit different angle compared to the previous speakers. I was actually asked by the lady sitting next to me, Mats, why do you need to go into space? And the answer is no, I don't need to go into space. But I get my inspiration from basic research in high energy physics and in space research. And I start from there and then I go after another market, not the space market, but the aging population in, at the whole planet, which is for sure existing now, and it is getting bigger and bigger every year. And before we worked on breast cancer and detectors for radiation therapy, and I would, at least if you ask me, I think they all became successful projects, successful Swedish industry with a lot of employed people. And when I quit as a president, we had 52 Swedish subcontractors, which I thought could really compete in this area of medical technology, where it is an advantage, by the way, to be Swedish, an unfair advantage. If you say you're Swedish, that's really good. It's almost as good as being Swiss. So I will talk about the project. It's always most exciting to talk about what you're doing right now. And we are developing a new type of computed tomography, which is one of the most common medical examinations in the world. And we are developing a new detector technology, which is inspired from space. And computed tomography is used for like 100 different medical reasons, but major ones are stroke and cancer. And we will aim at stroke first, just to prove our concept, and we do that in collaboration with the Karolinska Hospital. And here you see a picture of the brain, and this is an easy case. Most cases are much more difficult, but this is an infarct. And a few years ago, the ambulance were told not to turn the lights on, because if you got stroke, it was already too late. While now, if you're lucky enough to have Karolinska as the closest hospital, they can fix you by taking a catheter up your leg and using a corkscrew, or basically it's a Swiss pocket knife they have up there. They like dissolving liquids and etc. And in some of the cases, like half of them or more, from being in a position where you can't move anything, you basically say thank you very much and can walk home again. And this is really a very different situation compared to a few years ago. And we worked very closely with those medical doctors, and we want to help them to be even better. And if you go back to space, to the left here is an ordinary photography, and to the right is an image with a CCD invented by George Smith at Bell Labs. Really nice invention, one of my favorite ones. As you can see, it's a huge improvement in sensitivity and spatial resolution. And we want to do the same thing, but for X-ray imaging. And a major reason for stroke is that the carotis plaque in your arteries in the throat, if you ate a lot of sour cream onion Friday evenings, you probably never did that, some of it gets stuck, and it may get loose and obstruct your blood flow, and that's an infarct, and it's very bad for you. So if we could, this is a sample then excised from a patient, so it's not inside of a patient. And well, the text is really small, you probably can't read it, but 2 of those are from our new detector, and 2 of them are from the most expensive machine we could find at Karolinska. So which one do you like best? And we think this will really help the doctors to do a prophylactic treatment to remove high-risk plaques before this happens. And this is a very common cause of death and a very common cause of very serious handicap too. And here is another one. So what we're doing is higher spatial resolution, but as in space, we also now measure the energy of the X-rays, which is not being done right now. And here you have injected iodine, which is a very common contrast agent. And for a doctor nowadays, it's hard to tell the difference between iodine and bone. They may just happen to be at the same grayscale level. So with our energy discrimination, we can select out the iodine, or maybe somebody can see the iodine here. It's so easy. Where is it? Well, it's easier now if we say it is iodine measured by our new detector. And we think this will be helpful. So my answer to this question can what was it? Can you take any research to $1 billion industry? I'm not sure any of our ventures went all the way into $1 billion, maybe 1 billion Swedish crowns or something. But so it's lacking a factor 10. But I'm positive, and I'm a whole lot more positive about Sweden compared to America than what we heard a few minutes ago. I think we are even more American than the Americans are. I think we are positive, and we should really continue to be positive. So I think the answer is yes here, and of course we can do things better. And I think a lot of smart comments have been said already, like collaboration between the state and maybe the hospitals and academia and industry, like in the good old times. I think it's a lot to be done there. I also think that you have to understand that it takes 5 years. So if we take a good idea from space or from high energy physics, at least my experience is that it takes 5 years of hard work. I think it should be a small team, but still, I mean, the price for one of those CT scanners is 15 million Swedish crowns. So it will cost like 50 million crowns to do any sort of venture that is, that you will, if you want to have just a small chance to succeed, that's the money you're talking about. And we got that money from the generous donor, Stefan Persson, and I think we are very lucky. We have always been lucky, but everybody's not so lucky. And here I think it's a tendency in Swedish research funding to either have very small grants, a few million Swedish crowns, or to have large grants, but then they should be subdivided among 10 collaborators or whatever, 10 universities. And I think we should have much more of the winner takes it all. 50 billion crowns, and you share with nobody. Then, of course, if we are not the winner, we will all be really angry. But that's another story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. As was your situation easier than other researchers, because there was a visible problem? I mean, stroke or cancer with high cost in personal suffering, high cost in many other aspects, and you come and say, I have the solution. I mean, it must have been easier to convince people to put money into this. Instead, if you come and say, I have a great idea about space research or a solution up in space, someone said, what's the idea? Why should I? Was it easier to convince the family passion?
I think yes.
Yeah. Because the situation was so clear.
Yes.
Mats, I have another question for you. Did you start with the research, saying this is something interesting that these space guys are coming up with? Maybe we could apply this to something else, and you found sort of market for it, or was your idea of solving the problem of stroke and cancer?
Well, we really wanted to help, and we wanted it to go all the way to help all the patients in Sweden. But still, it was those 5 years of research that you need to bridge somehow. And the problem with venture capitalists is that if you tell them that, hello, we have done some really nice research, they will kill you. They will not say thank you very much. So you really need somebody to bridge that. And also from a personal point of view, well, my friend had to get a pacemaker after basically having done research and dealing with venture capitalists. It's just very stressful. They don't like you. They hate you.
But Felix said,
I mean, you fail doing something, and then you have to promise them to do like 10 times as much just to get more money. But you feel responsibility for everybody who's employed in your company.
And
so
Felix said, never talk about technology, always talk about applications. Was this what you tried to do?
I don't know.
If the family passion hadn't given you the money, what would have happened?
You would have asked somebody else.
Yes. And if somebody else also said no, I mean, is there any other way to
we
go?
We would have asked number 3.
Never take a no for an answer. The answer is always yes in some way or other.
Well, you know, you have to go on to the next guy if he says no, I think.
But I'm trying to find out sort of the general stumbling blocks for people of your kind who sort of meet suspicion, opposition, no's wherever they go. Can they go to the government? Can they go to other ways of funding?
Well, you can get like it's enough for a pre-study to get money from VR, for example. So that is a start. You can do something with that. It's not really enough to build something and test it in the clinic.
Would you have given up? I mean, if you are 3, 4, 5 people, are there many? We're talking about all these innovations that are lying around in academia and in companies and at individual inventors.
Yeah, it's always an excess of good ideas and too much emphasis, I would say, on the good idea. And that is true in America as well. You have so many good ideas. The difficult thing is to bring the good ideas to reality, and that takes 5 years of really hard, focused work, I would say. You know, I'm just doing this, nothing else.
We say one of the strengths in Sweden is cooperation and sort of trust in our colleagues and other people. And this winner-takes-all philosophy of yours will maybe destroy this. No one will want to share their ideas with someone else out of fear that he will be the loser and get nothing.
I think you should still keep like the small grants they serve another purpose. But right now there are no such large grants. 0, nothing. It's always politically differentiated. If you get 20 million crowns, then you have to show up like a whole list of collaborators, and then that means by definition that you can never succeed.
I'm bringing up both panels. My previous panel, and David has left. Anna will come up, and Fredrik and Mats is already here. What lessons can be drawn? Jan-Erik?
Well, first of all, I think what I said before, that you need people that are willing to invest their money and invest in a project with a fair amount of risk. It's extremely important, and I'm happy to see what Mats have accomplished. But he's in a very special area. I don't think that is true for all areas, and I think we have many areas that we have a problem in.
Why is he special then?
Well, I mean, you already mentioned that, and Mats already mentioned it. It's an area that reaches out and is easy understandable, and we also have very successful large companies in this in the medical area. So I think that is a little bit different, though. But I agree completely with Mats when he says that one should focus on people and on individuals, and I think that goes also from all the way from research out to a certain stage. Then when you come into a company like ours, then you need to sort of cooperate with many and have many involved in terms of customer, supply chain, and the academic persons. But to focus on individuals also in the research stage, I think is a good strategy.
Betty, it's a beautiful story, isn't it?
Yes, it sure is. And I'm happy for the results that have been put forward. But I also believe that the contributions and the funding that the government has done now makes a good platform for reaching these expectations and reaching these enormous results. Actually, we have risen the budget for research and innovation with 30% during by 2016. It has been risen by 30% compared to 2009, and that's quite a lot. And we have also made some changes so that we also make some money specified for just the high quality researchers, also international researchers, but as Mats pointed out, we perhaps could do more on the bigger grants that are allowed.
It's easy to say afterwards, of course we should fund this thing that Mats is doing, but the complication is that when he started out he had 20 competitors with their ideas, and the trick is to find out, as Mats said, who should get the money. Because if you spread it out, it will be almost useless.
Yeah, it sure is. But in that way we have the funding, the research funding institutes that have this as their job to just pick up the good ones.
Well, I have one more comment. It takes longer than 5 years. The first time I came in contact with you was way back in the 90s. So I think you are sort of lying a little bit when you say it takes only 5 years. It takes a long time.
Fredrik, any
this is the next project. This is project number 3.
But it was based on the same sort of philosophy, right?
Fredrik, does this story corroborate what you have been trying to tell us?
Yes, absolutely. And Mats is hitting a nail when he's saying that you can't split up the research grants to 1 or 2 or 3 million, because no one will ever succeed. So I think you're really hitting it on that. You have to be a lot more focused. I don't know if any of you remember the huge Vinnova directed funding to the, what's it called, societal security or something like that 3 years ago. It was the biggest ever effort into societal security, and it was 40 million Swedish, and they split it up on 20 different projects, so no one succeeded.
But this could be the first phase, and then in the next phase you emphasize on 1 or 2 of the most successful ones, so don't be too sure, Fredrik.
I think a little money is very important for young researchers, and I got that when I was young and Jan-Erik Sundgren was in charge of TFR. Thank you.
Anna, should we distribute research money more geared to a few projects?
Early developments, that's okay. But otherwise I agree with Mats that you should concentrate on some very good ideas. But of course it's difficult to know where to put the money. But also another thing I would like to emphasize is that we in Sweden have very good ideas, a lot of ideas that could be something, both for governmental business, for research, for different tools, and also commercial. But we need some kind of incubator way of really growing them, and we need that in Sweden. We miss that right now. That's what my message is.
I've heard this for so many years. I must say, what progress are we nevertheless making in this? Because I mean, we can't have been aware of this problem for 20 years.
I don't know what kind of progress we do right now. Maybe it's coming. I think what is good is that I think the Swedish National Space Board have some ideas about this national program. That's good, as I said before. But I think it must be, if you look at the companies right now in Sweden, they are, mostly of them, are actually growing from the big companies and this national program that we have had. And it's not much new after that. And we have to change that, otherwise we will miss our good position that we have in space.
Are we making any progress in taking care of innovations in Sweden?
Yes, I think we are. I think the research bills that have been proposed by the government the 2 last times have been good, and they are a step in the right direction. First, focusing on strategic areas. One can always argue if one should pick winners, but I think they are so broad, so that they are really focusing on the strengths of Sweden. And then follow that up by also looking at strategic innovation areas and also increasing the funds to the universities. We need strong and good universities in Sweden, that's for sure. That's where we get basic research, that's where we get the competence for new startups, for all companies like Volvo. So I think we are making progress. But this stuff that Fredrik talked about, and which makes me a little bit worried, is the mentality in the whole Swedish society. And I think that we have a long way to go, and that takes time to change mentality.
I just have one question. If I have a little bit of money and I have a very good idea to make a good business, commercial business in Sweden, what should I do then, according to you?
Yeah, well, first of all, you need
I'm not at the university, maybe.
Pardon you?
I'm not.
Obviously there are a number of investment or venture cap companies in Sweden. The problem is that they have gone further upstream, downstream. So that's a problem. You can go out and look for people, and you should do like Mats. If you get no from the first one, obviously you go to the second one. You can go to Volvo Group Venture Capital. We have a venture cap company that are supporting ideas that comes up in the academic structure.
It's long term also, as you know, we have to be patient, as we have learned from here.
Of course it's long term, and we have two reasons for running our own venture cap company. Either the idea is so damn good that it evolves and it comes into our business, and then we buy it, and then it's long term, right? Or if it's a good idea, but where we think it would be a good supplier for us, then we help them out such that they can stand on their own feet.
We'll try to define the end user. I know when Leif Lundblad came up with the idea of a cash machine, he managed to interest in a big American bank, and the prototype was a lot of shoeboxes attached with strings, and they say, we're going to buy 1,000 of these from you. And that was his early breakthrough. And they afterwards said, we thought you had 1% of a chance, but we realized that if you were successful, we would have such an advantage over our competitors, so we were ready to pay this for this big bank, ridiculously small sum of money. So maybe you should go more to the end users. Does anyone agree with this brilliant observation from the moderator? Fredrik does, which makes me slightly suspicious.
I think what is normally the problem is the space qualification part, because it costs a lot of money, take a long time. And that's why it's quite difficult to find the end user something. They don't dare to spend so much money. Let's
focus more on space at the remaining minutes, so we don't talk too much generally about innovation.
I think there is one issue that we sometimes forgot. We take things perhaps too early to a startup company. You mentioned, Anna, demonstration facilities, and I think that is crucial, and I think for space that would be extremely crucial, that we have demonstration possibilities, but that costs money. It's much more expensive.
So we have the great idea about the space business incubator. Was that Anna's side?
Yes, I think we mentioned in the beginning here.
Yeah.
But I mean demonstration projects, and that's what I think you meant also.
Yes, I do.
Can we speculate a little? Where will we be in 15 years' time?
In the space area?
In the Sweden space industry, space research?
It would be sort of naive for me to speculate what happens in the space area. I'm not a space scientist.
But you're calling for visions and so, and then you lack visions completely yourself.
No, it was Fredrik that called for visions. Well, thank you very much for that. I can tell you where I want to be in the sort of general R&D and innovation, innovation area.
Yeah, okay. Let's say 15 years ahead. Where are we?
15.
15.
15 years. Then, you said 50.
No, then you can escape and tell me.
That's right.
You must be responsible for what you're saying.
15. Then I think we have created a structure in Sweden where we have possibility to take research results, and I don't think we have lack of research results, over the valley of death by having public procurement being put in place, where we have demonstration facilities, where the private sector and the public sector works closely together to ensure that we have demonstration facilities, and we have taken a number of areas into growth companies. We have created more billion-dollar companies out of a few selected areas, and I hope space is one, and transportation is another in general. Obviously, we want to be there, and we have created possibilities for a sustainable transport system in Sweden.
Can you beat this, Betty?
It's hard. but I believe that we have taken some steps, perhaps, for instance, about the public procurements. Of course, it's a small step, but we have at least taken it. So perhaps we will land where you think we will be. And I think that something that's important is that innovation today is some kind of buzzword. And I think we need to really put efforts in define it as it ought to be. And today we have the highest standards on the innovation scoreboards from Europe. We're third place. We're the country that puts almost most money into the research and innovation bill. So somewhere around these years, 2028, I think we will get some refunding, and I think that's important. But I would just say one thing about the space agencies, that I think that we also, by that year, need to have, because I think sometimes we overestimate what people know about space, and what people know about the satellites communicating and everything. People don't know this. They use their phone, and they don't care. What is this?
Maybe.
And I think we need to be more specific and more informative of alerting what this is all about. Why we can broadcast TV at the same time from the Soviet Union or from Russia, and we can look at it at the Olympic Games, for instance. And how come we can broadcast the disaster going on in the Philippines? I think we need to involve more people and need to educate more people that it is space that makes this possible. And that is one mission that we need to accomplish by 2028.
Space needs to be on Facebook, or at least have a Twitter account. Do you want to address my 2028 question?
Well, a couple of levels then. I mean, I think we'll have some startup companies that will be able to make money and not with the support of the government. But I think one thing which is needed to get there is also to broaden the market. I mean, space is too narrow to that Sweden can provide a big kind of market for one's company. And we need to kind of, I would say, deregulate European business for space. ESA is, to some extent, I hope no one realized I'm employed by ESA, right? But it's putting a kind of strangle on it, which was mentioned by you or David, that money has to go back to the country where the money came from. And I mean, it's strangling the thing at the same time where in the US it gets much more free, that instead of NASA saying, you're going to build this vehicle to that and that and that and that exact point, to say, we need these capacities, who can do it? And all these things needs to happen in Europe, and I think ESA and the European Union need to kind of come together so to make a bigger market, which is easier for it to work. And since I'm an optimist, I believe that will happen, certainly within 15 years. I think that Sweden also had this great opportunity, was mentioned a couple of times, it can start pretty soon, that we can be the first in Europe to have a kind of commercial space flight by suborbital flights. And that we can use as a starting point to do other things. It was mentioned that eventually, we will have point-to-point suborbital flights. You can fly from Sweden to Japan in an hour. And if we are early in the game here, we can be kind of an early provider for those things. So, I can go on for longer, but...
Michael, what will we know about the universe or the multiverses by then?
Don't you have an easier question than that? On what Victor's saying. I think that in 15 years you'll have routine, safe, affordable suborbital operations from Kiruna. I think that when you fly 1 or 6 passengers on these tourism flights to see the beautiful northern lights. They will also have experiments that will help them understand the mesosphere. So this is the high altitude, very high altitudes of the atmosphere where a lot of this information about global climate change is happening that we don't know about. And that that will keep this country and this whole world from being underwater in 150 years.
Okay, yes, yes, add some.
You can make it short if you like.
I think the infrastructure is going to be much more extended than it is today, and also I hope it's going to be much more understood by the people in general what the good of space is. And also think that we hope that we are going to launch both these suborbital vehicles, but also launching satellites from the north of Sweden. And I think one market that is really going to grow is what is small CubeSats and things like that, as addition to the other kind of satellites. And then you can have much more fun, you can say. You can do some new things, and that's really good. And I also hope that we have this incubator, that we have some new business really growing in Sweden. Let's hope for that.
Fredrik.
That's a tough question, but I think that we will see a booming space industry in 15 years from a simple reason that you mentioned on CubeSats. There is 150 universities around the world building their own satellites today. And just by the pure numbers of researchers being put behind creating space technology and space systems, there will be a tremendous amount of opportunities coming up in the commercial sector. Things that we can't imagine today, but that will be there in 15 years.
Och Mats.
A booming industry, not in space, well, it can be in space as well, but in my case I would like to see it also in other areas, inspired by space, but in other markets.
And Ole, what will happen in the next 5 minutes?
Thank you. Jan-Erik, I just have to comment that there's a very obvious future connection between transport and space. I think in the future we will have navigation from space helping out with transportation and making sure we don't collide and we drive in.
That happens already today.
Yes.
So I thought that was a little bit too
It will happen to all of
simple.
us in the future. I've had a tremendous time this afternoon. I learned a lot. I've taken a lot of notes about your ideas. If you in the audience have ideas for future seminars, don't hesitate to contact either me or Christian to give us feedback on today. Many thanks to our panelists and talkers and Ulf. Thank you very much for being a moderator and keeping this together today. It's been great. What will happen now is that we will go up and have some drinks and some snacks, and discussions will continue upstairs. Thank you very much for coming.